All right, guys, sorry, I had my Bluetooth on, so you guys could not hear me. Now I am back, and we're going to talk about the three planes of existence. And the reason why we're talking about the three planes of existence is because what we're going to be covering here on this channel, on this page, is we're going to be covering the universal laws. But for us to fully embrace these 7 universal laws, we have to understand the 3 planes of existence that we're on, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. So stay tuned, and I'm super excited. Okay, so the 3 planes. Number 1 is physical, number 2 is mental, and number 3 is spiritual. So on the physical plane, we're going to start there. The physical plane is matter, okay? The physical plane is where we are connected to our ego. We're connected to possessions. We can be connected to being a worker bee. So meaning that in the physical, we can say, well, if I go to school to be an accountant, I'm going to make, $60,000, $70,000 a year. So what happens is on this physical plane, we can operate and we can start being a worker bee, okay? And the reason why, just to add this on here, why we want to talk about these planes and understand them is this is how people are able to become master gurus. They're able to become master manifestors, master spiritual people, as they understand and they can work on these planes of existence in order to become their best self. And these planes will interchangeably go in and out. So we won't stay in one plane, we'll interchangeably go in and out, okay? But it's important to understand when you're in a certain plane to what you should be doing in order for you to get the best outcome in life that you want to receive. So on the physical plane, it's about matter. It's about physical stuff we can see, our houses, our cars, careers, jobs, our ego. We hold on to possessions. We hold on to things like we have this idea of more. If I have a bigger house, a bigger car, a bigger whatever, more. We're connected to measuring, being able to measure stuff on a physical level and not seeing with our spiritual eyes, but seeing with our physical eyes. On the physical plane, we're still healing, okay? This is where we start learning how to, because we have to start physical. When we're on this physical plane, this is when we start to be able to truly heal ourselves. This is where we start to be able to really start to become one with ourselves and become better. So we're still healing. One of the things that my guides have taught me and have shown me through visions and through conversations is that we all souls will go through this experience, okay? And what they call it is they call it the spiritual umbilical cord gets cut. So all of us have this spiritual umbilical cord when we're first born. That's why kids, they have imaginations. They're really light. Kids are really just joyful and happy and go lucky, and they can imagine all this stuff. Well, that's until the spiritual cord gets cut. And what they tell me is what happens is that we will have this first experience that will change how we're able to reach spiritual levels, okay? And this first experience is when we figure out that we're separated from God. And if you don't resonate with the word God, it's when we find out that we're separated from our higher self to higher being. So at this point, we're realizing something isn't right with us. This could be our bodies. Maybe we're too big, we're too small. This could be our skin. This could be our class. These could be things that we have, but we start to realize something's not right with us. And on this first level, in this physical plane, we start to realize too that our gifts and talents and abilities, our true authentic self, the way that the Creator created us, is no longer true. So maybe you have a talent of art, or maybe you have a talent of music, and your parents are like, oh, stop playing that music, I don't want to hear it, or whatever, that drawing is whatever. Then we start to, the gifts that we came down here on earth, we start to shut them down. Something isn't right with them. Something isn't right with them. So this is when we first start coming separated from the one, from that higher power, okay? And we have to emerge our physical with our soul in order for us to advance. Okay, so on the first plane, the level to getting to be a group, to getting to be a massive, healer and stuff like that. On that first level, what we have to do is we have to master our wounds, our inner child healing, father wounds, masculine, inner father wound healing. We have to work on healing ourselves, our limiting beliefs on this physical plane before we're able to be advanced and to go to another plane. And we're going to talk about that. And how the mental plane works, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about that here in a second, is basically it works by the law of correspondence. As above, so below. As below, so above. We're like a reflection, okay? This is in the mental, we start realizing this, okay? But what we have to realize is how we feel about ourselves, so our surroundings. So this is why, like I told you guys in the beginning, we're going to go in and out. So we're not going to stay in one. Okay, it's not about mastering one and then leaving the other one. This is our existence. So these three planes, we go in and out interchangeably. Okay, so they're so we're gonna constantly, go in and out of these. But what we have to realize is how to balance it. Okay, so how we feel is going to predict the outcome. Okay, how we feel in the physical world is going to dictate the outcome and our ability to be in the mental. So we have to declutter. We have to take care of our physical space. We have to clean. We have to declutter our stuff. We have to be organized. We have to live our life in a certain manner so that we can get into this mental state, which is going to get her to this highest level. We have to do protection. Okay, that's a basic level that's in the physical world. So if we were talking about magic in the physical world, the very basic level would be we would be doing protection on ourselves, on our homes, on our vehicles, on our property, and things like that when we're talking about that. But we must heal the physical first. The plane of mental is everything is in the mind. The mind is all about mental. So we are creating our reality with every thought. So this is when we move to the next level. So when we're able to master that physical level, we go to this mental level and we start realizing that everything is in our mind. And in the mental, this is like mirrors. Okay, so how you can look at this state is that when you're in this mental state, everything is a mirror. You're in this room of like mirrors, and whatever you think is almost like you're going to get back. So you raise your hand, the mirror reflection, is in resemblance to what you're doing. That's what you're getting back from the physical world, because we truly do create our reality. So in this mental, we're realizing this, and basically which gives us the most results. So basically every thought that keeps us from God and to our higher power, so every thought that we're like, oh my God, I'm going to be super worried, every thought that we have disconnects us, that's negative, disconnects us and separates us more from God, more from the higher power. Every time we have these negative thoughts, because basically what happens is the more we do that, the more that the mirror reflection is going to give us results that we're not going to be happy with. And basically when we're having these thoughts that are separating us from God, these negative thoughts, we're also undermining God's power, the Creator's power. We're also saying that, God isn't more powerful than this fear that's ahead of me. Maybe God can't handle this financial thing that's right ahead of me. And we're feeding in to this lower energy, okay, that is more so, not only can we be disconnected in the physical world, but now we're also disconnected in the mental world if we're thinking like this, okay? So people who start to realize this, and they start to realize that, they're creating their reality, every thought that they have, that they're creating their reality, they're starting to be mindful of their thoughts. Now, I want to say something to you right now. All of us, no matter who you are going to have negative thoughts, okay? There's no way, and God knows this, the higher power of the Creator knows this, there's no way none of us can just stop having negative thoughts. Part of that's being human, and part of that is in order to keep us safe. So let's just first say that. Number two, what it's about is it's about your comeback game. So you can have these negative thoughts because unfortunately someone in your family can pass away. You get in a fight with a partner, you have a disagreement, like life things are going to happen, right? But what it is how long do you stay there? It's not that it's not going to happen, because it will. We'll have moments of that. But it's our comeback game, and how long do we stay in those vibrations? That takes us to, which we'll be studying, that takes us to, hi, Miss Gladys, and hi, all you beautiful people here. That takes us to that lower vibration. So what we want to do is we want to be mindful of that. In order for us to clear our minds, in order to master this mental level, here's some things that we can use, some tools that we can help us when we're in this plane of mentalism, in general, is we have to learn how to master to meditate. We have to be able to clear our mind. So a lot of people will tell me, well, Courtney, I don't feel like my guides are talking to me, or I don't feel as connected. A lot of that time is because you have too much chatter going on in your mind. You have worries, you have stress, your to-do list, partners, and so forth. You have all of this going on in your mind. And the only way we can connect to the higher power and to source energy is through silence. That's why prayer is normally silent. It's quiet. Your mind can't constantly be on repeat when you're trying to connect. So number one, what we want to work on is we want to learn how to get clarity. We want to learn how to get clarity, and we want to learn how to declutter our mind. So what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to meditate. We're going to learn how to practice mindfulness. Okay, these will be some things I'll be teaching on this page to go deeper in. But for the point of this live here, I'll just keep it brief. We're going to want to walk in nature. We should be, my guides tell me we should get at least 20 minutes of sunlight per day, even if that's just sitting on your porch, sitting in your backyard, sitting at a park bench, whatever that might be. We want to be getting that sunlight. We want to spend some time in nature. We want to swim in nature, swimming in lakes and natural bodies of waters, lakes, oceans, rivers, things like that. That will also help us clear our minds. We want to start working on EFT tapping when we're in the state, which I will show you guys, and we'll be working on some of that stuff. We want to be doing baths with salts, with Epsom salts, with spiritual baths, spiritual cleansing. A lot of that will clear our aura, which will help clear our mind, because first, spiritual attacks or just mental clutter will come from our aura, then it seeps down to our mind. So we want to make sure we're doing this type of stuff. Energy healing. When it comes to spell work first starts within the mind. So anyone who's doing spells or stuff like that, it's all going to start in the mind. So if you have a lot of stuff going on, and remember, even with spell work you need physical, mental, and spiritual. But what happens is you have to master that physical, okay, and then master that mental, because the spell work can't become effective until it's in the spiritual world. So what a lot of people will do when I'm doing spell work for them is they'll rush me and they'll be like, oh, what does it look like? What does the candle look like? Or I want to see this, or I want to see that. Well, they don't realize is it takes three different ways to make the spell work. First, you have to do in the physical, which is the candle, which is the herbs. Then you have to do in the mental, which is the protection, the energy healing, the energy that you're giving the candle. It's the mantras you're saying, the songs, whatever you're doing. And then it's spiritual. It normally involves some type of astral projection or some type of higher thinking that is not just in the 3D to help bring it forth, connecting to a deity, connecting to your higher self in some form in order for that spell to actually be effective. Okay, so it's not so much about the physical, that they all work together. The physical mind, the physical needs to be right, and for us to be able to get what we want to manifest, and for the spell to work, which I kind of said that. So mental is also is one of the most powerful frames of mind to be in, is the mental. Because if you can master the physical, declutter, master protection. So protection would be considered in the physical for me. Protection work and grounding work and it would be in the physical, and then the mental would be about clarity and kind of going to a higher level. So because it's within the mental place, we decide if we will surrender to paradise, or if we give into our fears. So it's in the mental. Let me just say this again to make sure I'm saying it right. It's in the mental that we decide we have to give our will to. Are we going to surrender to paradise? And we're going to talk about what paradise means, or what I mean by that. Or are we going to give into our fears and worries? So in that mental space, again, it's interchangeably, we're going to be going in and out of these spaces. We're going to be in that moment. Let's just say you're doing dishes and you have this moment like, oh my God, I don't think I'm going to have enough money. Say that pops into your head. A lot of people can relate with that. So let's just say, for instance, we start worrying about, money. We start worrying about finances. And what ends up happening is, are we going to surrender to say, you know what? I know my guide's got that. I know God got that for me. I know there's things. I know I have tools. I know I have things that I need to do. Now, bam, we're in the spiritual plane. Or if it goes the other way, let's just say we're doing dishes, we have like a negative thought, something happens, and we're like, oh, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. I don't think I'm going to be able to I'm not going to have that money. And we allow the worry to go on replay. Okay. And we're going to talk about that. We allow the worry to go on replay. We are surrendering to basically sentencing ourselves in a prison. Because what did I tell you before? What is that mirror reflection? The mirror reflection, so when we're in the mental, there's literally mirrors all around us. So if we decide that we're not going to have the money to pay this, and we have decided this, and our fears, because we're only human, our fears and our anxieties are, stressing us out, bam, we've done gave us a sentence. Bam, we've done hexed ourselves. It's 11:11 Central Time right now. So we basically decided to put ourselves in prison. Or we can escape from that and realize that no, there is this spiritual plane. There is this higher being. And I know that this power is so powerful that whatever it is that I need is going to be there for me. Okay. We have this option when we're in this mental. Okay. So, let's see here. So God is more powerful than any of our fears and worries. Okay. God can help us. God cannot help us until we decide to jump into the other side. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. I like this right here. This has been a very valuable lesson I've had to learn. God cannot help us until we decide to jump to the other side of faith. Let's talk about this. What does that look like? Well, when we decide to jump to that side of faith and surrender, which is very hard to do, right? Because we're humans. We turn on, the news. We see negativity. We have family members. We see negativity. Social media might show us some negativity, whatever. So we have these fears that are human. We have our own traumas, because in the physical, we have to work on our wounds. So we have trauma. We have history. We have all this stuff that it's letting us know, like, yeah, my fear is correct. I had this happen to me. My fear is 100% right. All right. So we have all this validation that shows us that our fear is right. And when we jump on, and what happens with God in the spiritual world, because we're on earth and we're in this realm, and we'll be talking more about realms, but for this video, we're just going to talk about earth. On earth, we're in this realm. So people will say, well, why do bad things happen? Like, why would God let a child get hurt? Why, if there was a God, why would people not be able to eat, right? Well, on this earth, the spiritual world is not able to intervene. Hence why you have spiritual teachers like Gandhi, Buddha, Jesus, Mother Mary, all kinds of other saints and people that we look up to. We have them because guess what? We don't have direct access to God. Okay? Why do we use these saints? Why do we go to Jesus? And it says, like, Jesus is the Son. He's the one he's the only way we can get to God. Why is he the only way we can get to God? Part of that reason is because as humans, we don't have the ability to just go directly to God. Okay? And that's because of the realm that we're in. We're in this realm of where free will is true. Okay? Free will, I mean, it's real. You know, people can go up to someone and punch them in the face, or they can go up to them and give them a high five. People have free will. And what happens is the only way the spiritual world, and the only reason why some people who are magicians, some people who are alchemists, some people who are great manifestors, they're great at doing magic, is because they've mastered this. This is one big reason. They have learned to master this. So they have learned to jump on the other boat. And that boat is fearful. And what happens when you're on that boat, it's like you're riding a car and you're playing chicken. And you're actually in the car, right? And you're like, holy crap, the car is about to hit us. But when you're on the boat with God, he's so powerful, he goes over the car. But because we're on this physical plane, we're like, holy crap, we're about to hit this car. We turn and we do our own thing instead of allowing God to come in, allowing the spiritual world to come in to be able to protect us and to be able to do what it is we want to do. And when people are master alchemists and people are really good at doing magic and they're really good at all this spiritual stuff, guess what? They know how to shift it. They know how to put it in to where it works, because the mind will play tricks on you. Okay? This is how the enemy works. So God can only help us, or like the spiritual world, until we decide to jump on the side of faith. And that's the boat where you're going to see maybe 3 people on that boat. And everyone else, you're going to see about, I don't know, 100,000, whatever, on this other boat. And everyone's like, yeah, this is the cruise boat. Come over here. You don't want to be in that crappy boat over there. This is the party boat, you know? Everyone's in that boat. But that boat doesn't have the same power. It only has the physical power. The physical power of, hey, we have this, it's luxury, we got leather seats, we're eating shrimp, we're doing this, we're dancing, we got slides, we got all this stuff. The other boat doesn't have what that boat has, so we get tricked. We get into this trap and we can't escape it. We're stuck. Okay, we get stuck. And when we're in this mental state, we need community. Okay, because we're gonna keep on getting stuck when we're in mental state. Stuff is gonna happen. Oh my God, my bank account says I have $5. Oh my God, you know, I gotta go buy some groceries. Like, we're constantly gonna have this thing because we're in this human world where we're constantly gonna be in fear. So that's why we have to have community, because this physical world is gonna show us something that is not necessarily real. Okay, this could be, the doctors could say someone has cancer. And maybe it is really real if this person has cancer. But there has been people who've been able to think themselves out of cancer. There's been people who've been able to heal themselves out of cancer, even though the physical world said, you're going to pass away within 6 months of time. Okay? And this mental state, we have to get ourselves community. We have to do rituals. We have to go to services. If you're a religious person, maybe that's you participating in Sunday service. If you're a spiritual person, if you're more spiritual, maybe that's you doing a full moon and new moon ritual with some other people. Okay, just examples. We need to give offerings. When we're in this mental space, we need to be making offerings. We need to be praying. We need to be having prayers, mantras, days that we celebrate. So that's why we have feast days for, like, let's just say St. Jude, who's hanging out over here beside me, for St. Jude. St. Jude's feast day, I'm pretty sure, is October 28th. So on his feast day, you know, people do a little party, whatever. So we need this stuff, and whatever your religious belief, whatever your spiritual belief, everyone's going to be different. But in this mental state, we need a sense of community, because we're constantly going to have something that's going to knock us off. Okay? We're going to get afraid. We're going to get scared. It's part of being here. Okay? So we need that. We basically power ourselves by our spiritual beliefs, by our spiritual routines. That's how we give ourselves power, by doing baths, by doing rituals, by doing full moon rituals, new moon rituals, by doing candle magic and so forth. We're powering ourselves to be able to get to the spiritual side. So to go further in our spiritual practice. So that's what we have to do. We have to come back to the mental and physical to get fed. So when we're on this spiritual plane, let me just like say it like this. when we're on this physical plane, right? We really do need the physical and the mental, okay? We need this. In order for us to really get to the next level, we really need this. So what ends up happening is we end up needing to feed. We have to feed off of certain things. So we have to have the physical world because we have to have water, right? We have to have water, we have to have food, we have to have the things that we need. We have to have the mental. We have to have the mental clarity, okay, in order for us to be able to do anything spiritual. So that's why we have to, you know, do the meditation. We have to go out in nature. We have to develop these practices because we need our mental to be clear. Because once we get to this spiritual side, we're unstoppable. But we need that to fuel us. We need the food to full us, right? To fulfill it, to feed us, right? We need the food. We need the mental, because in order for us to stay on this spiritual side where we're going to be unstoppable, we're not going to be able to do that without having a clear mind, right? Number one, that's very important. So we're going to have to be doing those practices to keep a clear mind. So now we can enter into the spiritual world. What is spiritual? Well, spiritual plane is where the power is, baby. Yes, that's right. It's where the power is. It's faith. It's faith. So it's going to look different for different people depending on your faith. So we're on the spiritual side. It's not all going to look the same for all of us depending on our faith. But these are some of the things you can look out for and some of the things that will happen. So few are going to be able to stay here. Okay. So what my guides tell me is very few people will be able to stay in the spiritual side. Okay. It's going to be hard for people. Okay, and these are stages we go through every day, and some people only stay physical and mental, and they're blocked. Okay, and they don't go to this spiritual plane, or maybe they go once a year or once a lifetime. Maybe they don't go very often. What my guides tell me is that there are people who have been reincarnated, okay, and people who have been there in past lives, like these, you know, gurus that we have, Jesus, Gandhi, Buddha. These people have been able to master the spiritual side because they've lived more lifetimes and they've also spent a lot of time. So they're able to like bring people there. So their job is to come back and get people and take them to this other side so that people can be more over here, because in the spiritual is where we're more free. We're not free completely. We're not free in physical. We're not completely, we get a dose of it in the mental, but we don't become really free until we're in the spiritual plane. So few are chosen to be able to come back and forth and teach people how to get over here. So they say it's kind of like bringing a friend to church, where your church might say, hey, bring a friend or family member. That's where these people who have been there for long periods of time, they start taking people there. They start showing people there. The spiritual place is forever. Okay, it's forever. On this spiritual plane, people who are ready, they'll be able to access this. On the spiritual plane is where we end up connecting to deities on a higher level. We'd be able to almost like martial arts in a way, where martial arts, in order to be a black belt, you know, there's certain stuff you have to do. This is like the level where you're able to like think your way out of depression. You know what I'm saying? You're able to think yourself out of a situation. So people who can truly do magic aren't even doing it physical. A lot of people are caught up on candles, herbs, and all of this. The magicians, they can do this stuff in their head. Alchemists can do this in their head. There's people in India who can pull something right in the palm of their hand, because the mental is so powerful. Okay? And the spiritual plane, we can, let's see. We go to this higher plane, and when we're there, we're in this spiritual plane, we start to see our higher selves. So we don't react to stuff. So an example of this, when we're in the spiritual plane, and let's just say someone comes up to us with all their pettiness. Well, because we know the spiritual plane is paradise, it's light, it's fun, we get all of our bills paid, we have everything we need, we don't have sickness, you know, we have bodyguards, we have Mother Mary, we have everybody, you know, we're not worried about anybody. When someone comes to us and they start talking gossip, or they start doing crazy stuff to us, when we're on the spiritual plane, we become numb to it. Why? Because it's like a plate. How my guides describe it to me is they're saying it's like a white plate. And when you're in this spiritual plane and you react with it, and you know it to be true, you know it to be so true, you surrender to it and you put your faith all into it. When someone comes with some unclean food, or someone drops a piece of toast and they put it back on your plate, you're like, don't put that on my plate. I don't want that dirtiness on my plate. So we don't give our emotions and we don't give ourselves to that negativity. We don't join into the gossip. We don't judge people. We don't criticize people. Because why? If you're in paradise and you're happy, you're living the time of your life, why would you care about other people? Why would you care about what Susie down the street is doing with her husband when you're like, shoot, I got $1 million in my bank account and I'm over here living life? You ain't got time to be a hater when you're in the spiritual world, because you're enjoying life too much to be a hater. Do you see what I'm saying? So on the spiritual world, that's what we do. And when we're in the spiritual world, we're mastering our true self. We're mastering who we are. And like the Egyptians would say, master thyself. We know who we are. We know our makeup. We know our personality. We know why God created us. We walk this street saying, you know what? I'm here and I'm unapologetically going to show up every single day. I know my talents. I know why God has me here. I know my purpose. I know my power. So we are not swayed by the world. When we're operating in this sense of spirituality, we're not as swayed by the world. So when fear pops in, because fear is going to pop in because we're human. So when that bank account tells us something else, we're going to feel fear for probably a second because we're human, but we're going to have the practices and the rituals to bring us out of that and to take us back to the spiritual plane where we know we're going to be provided for and that everything's okay, and we're not going to let that negativity come into our white plate. Okay, we're not going to let the gossip, we're not going to let the drama, we're not going to let the lies, we're not going to let all the naysayers or whoever discourage us, because we see it differently. So we want to remain in our goddess energy. We're very choosy about who's around us. We're very choosy to what kind of music we listen to, what kind of movies do we watch, because we don't want that plate to get dirty. It's not because we think we're better than people. It's not anything to do with that. It's that our plate needs to remain pristine, because when we're in this spiritual mind, we are the closest to source energy, and we don't want to offend the source energy. And also we don't want to lose the source energy, because we're like, shoot, I was chilling on that physical plane. I had a little bit of paradise on the mental plane, but boy, this is the bad boy. This is the VIP. This is the penthouse on the spiritual plane. I'm not trying to go back to that. So we're no longer stuck in the mundane type of things about the world. We don't care about love and hip hop. We don't care about what's in the tabloids. Do you see what I'm saying? Because none of that is polluting our connection to the other side, and we realize that, and we want to stay in alignment to what's with us. And some things that we can do to get more into a spiritual alignment, or to stay in spiritual alignment, is dancing. The spiritual world loves dancing. They love rhythm. They love sounds, that vibration. So as we go over to the next few days, we start talking about the laws of the universe, okay? Because we need to use the laws, but first we have to understand the planes, and then we're going to use the laws, right? But in order to maintain that, we can do prayers, we can do mantras, we can dance, and we can have fun, because the spiritual world is about what brings you happiness. So what I might do to bring me happiness is going to be different to what you do to bring you happiness, but that's how you stay there. If you say, Courtney, how can I get to that spiritual level as fast as I can? Do what makes you happy. What is in your heart that makes you happy? There's this exercise. It's called call mom, or call someone who knew you when you was a child. And you call that person. You say, hey, when I was a child, how did I act? And they say, oh, you was always dancing. You was writing. You was, creating. You was doing Legos. You was doing that. Go back to your inner child. Your inner child is going to be the cord that you need to get to the spiritual side. Incorporate more of that in your life. Of course, we have to be adult. We have to, work sometimes. We have to do laundry. We have to wash clothes, whatever, dishes, so forth. We're going to have to operate in the human world, but we must in order to reach this, have joy in our lives. We have to. Okay, if we want to get to this higher level, do you want to be in a prison that you really just prison yourself to by your thoughts, or do you want to get to a paradise? In order to get to that paradise, and in order to get to that spiritual level, you must incorporate joy. You must be able to work on that inner child. You must be able to, be free, because our soul wants to experience. Our soul wants to experience. Our soul is like, I'm an internal being. I'm never going to die. We're never going to die when we're on the, our energy is going to keep on living. So our soul is like, hey, I want to have fun. I know the physical world is telling y'all, all of this, and you need to be worried, and your boss is yelling at you, and people are gossiping, and your mind's all over the place. But I just want to have some fun right now. I want to eat a piece of cake. I want to go dance. I want to, go draw. I want to create a story. You're that spiritual being in your soul wants these experiences. So that's a step. If you ever say I'm out of alignment, bring joy into your life. Do something to bring joy to your life. And as you're bringing joy and you're bringing some silence, you're going to start hearing the whispers of the universe. You're going to start hearing the whisper of your spirit guides. But you must do this in order to get there. So, guys, I'm super excited. Stay tuned. Tomorrow we will be talking about the universal laws, and I cannot wait to have this conversation with you. Namaste.